Could it actually be possible to bring this dead Bentley back to life with just a little bit of rubbing alcohol and a toothbrush? Sure, it was flooded, but just barely. The flood made it about as high as the carpets and really only damaged a few accessory relays. From the looks of this corrosion, it was flooded via a storm surge, which is when the hurricane moves a bunch of water from the Gulf to land. Gulf water is salt water, but here's the strange part. The main issue that we found on our Bentley is the immobilizer, which is located way higher than where this car actually flooded. But somehow, this module was loaded with water. But just look at how clean the circuit board is. There's only a tiny bit of corrosion, so this was most definitely freshwater flooded. Either way, I figured it wouldn't hurt to just try and clean the circuit board with a little alcohol and plug it back in to see what would happen. No power. That's a little different. Let's see. No way. This is huge. Since the moment I got this car, the key has been stuck in the ignition, which seems like an effect of our main electrical issue. When you put the key in, it locks it in place, but at one point, likely when the car was flooded, the system that commands the ignition to release the key stopped working, and that's why it's been stuck. Now that the key is out, we can finally attempt to start our Bentley. Or so I thought. Do you notice the center screen is blank now? Funny enough, it's one of the only things that's consistently come on since we've been working on the car, but now with our immobilizer dried out and plugged in, it's gone out. But I'm pretty sure this is just a coincidence because over the last week or so, we've been running multiple tests on this car, and so we probably just have a weak battery. Well, this gives me the perfect opportunity to use my new jump pack here. With all the recent sales going on, I picked this one up for half off over at Amazon. Look, it jumps gas cars up to 10 liters, diesel up to 8 with 4,000 amps. These are amazing on these high-draw European cars that have these huge engines just like this Bentley. And this 50% off deal is still going on right now over at Amazon. The T8 Max is powerful enough to jump most every car on the road several times over, plus it has a 100-watt input and output, so it can be juiced up quick or fast charge your mobile devices on the go. And right now, Fantic also has some of their other great tools on sale, like 47% off the V8 Apex 4-in-1 vacuum, which comes with a handful of great extensions that reach all the tight areas of your car. And of course, the most popular X8 Apex tire inflator, which can pump up to 150 PSI. I keep one in my daily driver as it makes topping up air in my tires super quick and easy. I've been using my original Fantic jump pack weekly for over 3 years now. It has been a very reliable and dependable asset for me around here with all these dead cars. So if you don't already have a jump pack, make sure you take advantage of 50% off the Fantic T8 Max. It's only for the next few days and it's over at Amazon. I've got a link to it and a few other amazing Fantic tools down in the description. All right, and with it hooked up, you can see we've got 11 volts on this battery, which isn't terrible, but in order to get the best result, the best chance at starting this car, and the best chance at the electronics working, we want as much power sent to it as we can. There's no key light in the dashboard, so in theory, things should work. Hit this button, my foot's on the brake. Nothing. Now let's put my foot on the brake, turn this. And when I do that, I hear a bunch of things kind of clicking coming from the back. So obviously it's still not starting, but we're extremely close at this point. And here's why. When I plug in my code reader and do a full system scan now, every module that is in this car is online. Before, when we did these scans, various modules couldn't be discovered. And that's because the Kessie module, or our immobilizer, was standing in the way. Basically, if this doesn't make a handshake when you put the key in the ignition, the car simply won't boot up all of its computers. Our first scan generated a ton of codes, as we could expect from a car that was in a flood. And doing a full system clear helped remove a lot of those, but after this, a few codes still came back, specifically in the Kessie. The first code has something to do with the battery monitoring control module, which we'll come back to in a little bit. The second is a general electrical fault code, and the last is the most important to our situation, which is an open circuit to terminal 50, which is the ignition system. So while cleaning and drying out this immobilizer helped, it didn't fix the damage that was done after it got soaked and power was sent through it. So until we get this immobilizer to 100%, our Bentley just isn't gonna start. Now there's a few different ways to tackle this problem, and I think I found the most efficient one. I'm still doing a little bit of research, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, I'm still puzzled by the fact that that module was loaded with water. And if you watched the last video, you saw that there was another module that sat directly in front of it, literally sandwiched together, and it was completely dry. And the box in which both these modules sit are both black plastic. They're constructed very similar. None of this makes any sense to me. So I'm going to do this very quick but very scientific test. Here we've got about 3 gallons of water. I'm going to go and pour it over just the corner of the convertible top here with the window all the way up. We got to think whoever parked this car, whether it was inside or out, they left the window up, right? And then I'm going to have my triple lens scope camera recording from in here. If we press this button and hold it, it's now recording, and this is the bracket that the immobilizer sits on, right? So this would be the area that our water should show up if there's a leak somewhere in the convertible top. So let's go ahead and just figure out where's the water coming from. It's completely dry back here. I don't feel anything. And the funny part is where Cassie sits, where the immobilizer sits. I've got my hand on the case, and in the center of that case, there's actually like a piece of padding. It must be for sound deadening or something, between the quarter panel and where the modules sit. And you can just feel it. It's soft. Like this would absorb water like a sponge. So if it ever got wet, look, it would be falling apart. My hands are completely clean. So even with our wholly convertible top, I'm still struggling to find out how so much water got in here. All right, so here's my second theory. These rear flaps for the convertible top are stuck in this position. They probably shouldn't be like this, especially with the top up. But if the windows were down a little and there was a heavy rain, then water went in this pocket and saturated the module. When I ran the scope camera down here, I couldn't find any direct path to that module. At first, I did notice a few drops of water that must have come in from our last test, and if this is all that made its way in after a few gallons got dumped on the car, I would say that's pretty acceptable. You can see some of the hydraulic lines for our soft top, but if this got loaded with water at one point, you would think you'd see some more significant signs here. While our scope camera's out, and I have this popped up out of the engine, I took this out to get to the alternator wire. I want to just check one of the cylinders on this side, the backmost one. And that's because some people are floating the idea in the comments that this engine or this car was already catastrophically damaged, something like it's got a bad engine or bad head gasket, and then they allowed the flood to be the excuse to get rid of the car because, of course, an insurance company is going to pay way more than a dealer would on something like this. Now, I want to check the rearmost cylinder because if this engine overheated and it melted a piston or blew a head gasket, your signs are going to be usually in the rearmost on either side. Those are the ones that get the hottest. So we'll just go. I've already got the ignition coil out here. You could see the ignition coil. It's like the same style one you get on a Volkswagen GTI. And really what's pretty incredible about these engines is there are elements of them that are extremely difficult to work on. But doing the regular service stuff like this right here, what a Bentley dealer would charge you an absolute fortune for, it's actually pretty straightforward. There's a lot of access. I didn't even have to take up this wiring harness in order to get this ignition coil out. So pretty simple to do. Some of the maintenance on the car, you just don't want to be replacing, well, head gaskets or even the vacuum lines, which are known to be a bit of a pain on these cars. All right, so here's your spark plug. Looks dirty, but it looks pretty normal. It's probably the original one that came with the car. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, what is that? That looks like it's dried up oil from a valve cover leak, but it's super dry. Yeah, see, this is an original spark plug here. It could just be the rubber boot in here, but it's dry. I've never really seen that before. Let me know, is this just grease combined with dust from the rubber boot in here? That's probably what that is. Okay, that's good. That's better than a valve cover leak because we don't want to have to do any valve covers. Let's go ahead. We'll run our scope camera down there really quick and just see what things look like. The top of this piston looks great with no abnormal signs of wear. Now this scope has 3 separate lenses so we can get a view of all the cylinder walls as well. And this one can do split perspective so we can view all around the cylinder at the same time. You can see the valves here are open a little, but they're nice and flat, and besides a little carbon buildup towards the top, which is perfectly normal, everything is really nice. Now, I ran the scope behind the engine to look for some of the vacuum lines, and I found a wrench that someone lost back here. I got this little guy right here that actually threads on to the end of the scope, and it's a magnet. So we might be able to pick that wrench up. Let's see here. I swear to you, this is not my wrench. Ah! Come on. There it is. Ah. I swear. Look at this. He didn't even spell chrome right on this tool. Chrome, vanadium, chrome. Either that or it's German. I know everyone's thinking I planted this wrench. I swear to you, I did not plant the wrench. This is not my tool. However, it is now my tool because I found it. And I like inexpensive tools like this. And like the Vevor triple lens scope camera, for around 60 bucks, you get that big, very clear 5-inch display with the dual view. It's tough to find a scope in this price range that does this much. And every time I show one of these on video, you guys always ask where you can get your own. So I went ahead and dropped a link to this one down in the description. Now there's one other thing I wanted to take a look at in the interior here, and that's on the opposite side. If we look down low, you can see there's a couple more modules placed behind the rear seat trim here as well. So if there's any sort of symmetry going on, there's a good chance that one of those modules might be flooded. There's a screw behind here. Come on. All right, here we go. There we go. All right. We just take the seat, pull it out a little bit like this. There we go. All right. We're off, and yep, there's two more modules on this side right here. The white plastic one towards the left, and then the metal cased one on the right. The first one can come out from the underside here, and there we go. Now let's see, sometimes these say what they are. I guess, there you go, this is exactly what it is right here. It's a rough and druck control. All right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that one. All right, this one again, you just kind of pull it out of the slot, and I snaked it out from the underside there. Came out really easy, and if you look at this casing, I mean, come on. How would there be any water? I'm shaking this. There's no water in this. It feels perfectly dry. We'll open it up just to verify, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be our air suspension controller right here, just because when I saw some of the diagrams in this car, I saw that the important one on that side was the immobilizer, important one on this side was air suspension. Of course, this thing is perfect. There's no issue here, and I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I can't come up with any other logical explanation to water in our immobilizer other than it being a man-made event. Let me know what you guys think happened down in the comments, but I just don't understand why someone would do this. That's why I'm still having a hard time believing what I believe. Now, having water in the Kessie, of course, provides a pretty decent sized challenge just because it is likely the most important module in the entire car. It's one of the more difficult ones to replace, but since this car is so old, you can clone these things, which is the really good news here. Each Kessie has a specific passcode on it that is unique to its one car, and so when you clone something, you're doing a one-to-one match, and it's like taking a module that never got damaged and putting it back in the car, and it should fire up. If you went to the dealer to try and get a solution to our problem, well, again, it's an old car, so they don't make this part anymore. They'd probably have to get the newest part and then match every other part in the car that talks to it to make everything work, and I bet you it costs way more than we spent on this entire car. In order to get ours cloned, we need the same exact matching part number. When I searched this part number, I came up with nothing. I called all over the world, and I tracked down one of these things with the same part number. They came out of a same year Bentley convertible, and luckily the parts breakers that I got it from didn't know that it was the only one in the world, and they charged me a very, very modest $300. I am so lucky that I was at least able to get the donor part. Now the next part is extracting the data off our water damage module. Because it was freshwater damaged, I don't believe it will be an issue, but we'll have to find out once I hear back from Fatty. Now Fatty, I mentioned in the last video, he is a big TikToker, and he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to electrical problems on European vehicles. So I've sent the donor and the original module from this car over to him, and it's funny because when I was chatting with him all through our problems with this car earlier on, like one of the first few days I had this thing, he said to me like, hey, you might want to check your battery management module because those are known to have issues. And I'm like, well, where is that? He goes, it's behind the main battery. Now, if you remember when I was searching codes in our immobilizer, we had a code for the battery management module. So again, these things are all connected together, and if all of them aren't working, this car is just not going to start. Now, I had told him, I said, water didn't get this high, so I'm not too worried about it. He goes, no, you don't have to worry about water back there. You have to worry about battery acid. And when he said that, it was amazing because when I swapped the battery out of this car, I noticed there was kind of this brown film all in the battery cavity, and I didn't think much of it. If you don't hook up the battery vent to this battery because it lives in the cabin of the car, there's no place for it to breathe but inside the trunk of the car. This acid will go into the module that sits directly behind it and corrode it, and sure enough, when I took that module apart, guess what? It was all corroded. I'm just so grateful that he told me about this because that would have been our next area of issue when we went to start the car. But with a replacement battery module and a cloned Kessie, I'm confident that this thing's gonna start up. And the second they return from being cloned, I'm gonna make an update video right here. So make sure you're following the channel. Also, if you're not already following me on Instagram, where I come out with updates to these project cars there before anything goes live here, all you gotta do is find me there, or I've dropped a link down in the description box as well. Guys, I really gotta thank each and every one of you for watching today, and I'll catch you very soon.